You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hey everybody, welcome. It's Ken Reed here from TV Guidance Counselor on the show TV Guidance Counselor with our last guest of 2020. Next week I'll be doing my solo year in review, which I did last year for the first time and people seem to enjoy. So this is our last guest that isn't me talking to myself. My guest this week is Tony Pacitti. Chitty as in cheat, as we say here. He is an author, and I know him from doing Mortified shows together. We have done several Mortified shows together. He also wrote My Best Friend is a Wookiee, which is a book about one man's journey to find his place in the galaxy. It's a very fun memoir along the lines of Mortified. And he has a podcast called What Did We Miss, which I have appeared on, and I believe we discussed Barney Miller. Was that a year ago? I don't know. It feels like 25 years ago. We'll never know. Anyway, very fun episode. I think you'll enjoy it very much. If you have anything year-end, New Year's wishes, anything like that you'd like to send me, you can do so at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com. Also, I cannot thank you guys enough for participating in the Patreon. If you'd like to participate and there is something that you would like to see on there that would encourage you to participate, please let me know at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com or at kennethwreed, REID, or at TV Guidance on social media. I am always trying to improve that thing and make it better, and I do appreciate you guys giving to the show. I also got my TeePublic page back, so if you want to buy any merchandise, you can look for that there. I believe it's just teepublic.com/TV Guidance Counselor. There is all kinds of merch for the show up there. And you can buy things there. I think I get $2 for everything you buy. Or, you don't have to buy anything. I just appreciate you listening and telling your friends about the show. And it is great. So anyway, that is everything. That's everything. And you're my everything. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Tony Pacitti.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Tony Pacitti, like cheating.
Exactly, yes. Notorious cheater.
Have you ever cheated on anything?
I thought you were asking strictly in the worst sense of the word.
Yeah, no, I want to know. I want you to confess all the times you've cheated.
Serial philanderer.
Yes.
I would probably be lying if I did not confess to peeking off of somebody else's work in high school, maybe in the Spanish class or two.
So your Spanish is no mas.
I'm going to have to look at somebody else's paper to figure out what you just said. So.
I think I said no more, but I meant to say no good. So I should say, tu español es muy mal.
Sí.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah. But you never tried to say I'm going to go Pacitti.
No, I didn't. My dad, his parents are both from Italy, so he definitely says it with a little bit of
mozzarella.
Yeah. There's a bit of old country stank on it.
Okay,
but no, I've said it sort of correctly, but as Olive Garden Italian as possible. But I have not I haven't fudged it at all.
You go, I got one of them red sauce last names.
Oh yeah, it's just slathered in ragu.
Because you grew up in Massachusetts?
Yeah, I grew up in Rowley.
Okay, because you live in Rhode Island.
Yes, yep.
Okay, that was always what I got confused. Rowley is up North Shore by Ipswich and all that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a big flea market every week. That's
there was.
Pretty popular. Yes.
In the before times.
Times.
The, what's the farm?
Todd Farms.
Todd Farm, yep. I've bought many things there in the before times. You also have an excellent diner, the Agawam Diner.
Yeah, which randomly Elvis Costello swooped through town and shot a music video there.
What video?
I think the song is 45.
Okay.
But it's just it was one of those things where
obviously about Donald Trump.
Yeah. He saw it all coming.
Yep.
It was one of those things where suddenly the day after it happened, everyone's like, Elvis Costello showed up and the diner was closed until 3 a.m. and we were like, that can't possibly have happened. But
It is a classic. It's like one of the most classic diners you could ever be in.
oh yeah, yeah, it's great. And the waitresses knew what all of our regulars were. It was awesome. I haven't been in years, but it was. I was probably there several times a week.
Cash
senior year
only.
of high school.
Cash only.
Oh yeah,
And a different special every night, so you could go several times a week.
yeah, exactly.
What was your regular order?
My regular order was 2 hot dogs, a grilled cheese with bacon, side of fries with gravy, and a Coke, and then a slice of coconut cream pie for dessert.
Oh, the pies, the coconut cream pie. I miss it.
Yeah, it's so good.
I miss it so. Yeah, I haven't been there in probably at least a year. And who knows when I'll ever go back. But it was nice while it lasted. That
Certainly was.
civilization
I
we
think I
had.
ate there enough for a lifetime. Not
Yeah.
saying I would not go back if I could, but
Yeah. Well, you get decent food in Rhode Island now. You didn't used to growing up, but now that you live there.
oh yeah, they saw me coming and they're like, we got to up our game. This guy's been to the Agawam Diner.
Yeah, we got to have Crazy Burger down in Narragansett.
Mm-hmm.
So we picked an issue here, or you picked an issue here from 2002, November 9th to the 15th, 2002. And the 2000s, I'm always a bit at a loss because I feel like this was like a year ago.
Right. Yeah.
'cause
I
I'm
mean, it is
old.
so weird. I kind of thought the same thing going into it. And there's a lot I didn't recognize. And then a lot of stuff that's sort of in its infancy, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, and this was also when I lived in the UK, so I missed a lot of stuff. So it's always kind of interesting for me to go back because in this era, like 2000 to about 2004, it like a lot of it, I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And so this was pretty fascinating. The cover we have Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, yes.
And it's at first you're like, that's not TV. But then you're like, well, it is because he was Remington Steele.
That's true. And this is also sort of maybe like the tail end of when, like every summer, I feel like for years as a kid, I don't know if it was TBS or TNT, but like there would always be the James Bond week where they just played nothing but James Bond movies. So like, yeah, it was kind of a TV thing.
Yeah, and it was like just for dads.
Yeah.
That week it was like let's give dad something. Speaking of which, in the back cover there is an ad for Covington, only at Sears, which is dad sweaters, and they seem to think $40 for a sweater is like a reasonable price, and that seems
In 2002 money?
yeah, that's like $4,000. That kid isn't worth $40.
Oh man, yeah. And I was also taken aback by how many cigarette ads are in this thing.
Oh, I mean, that is constant in TV Guide. Like they had cigarette ads up until like 2010. And it's not even a joke. It's really an observation, I guess. Observational humor. Every issue of TV Guide has like 3 or 4 cigarette ads, and they're all different brands, like every issue, which leads me to believe there's 47,000 different brands of cigarettes.
Yeah, and you know that like somebody in the ad department is like, oh, we got to rotate them because if Camel's up at the top 2 weeks in a row, Marlboro is going to be really upset with us.
Did you ever smoke cigarettes?
I did, and I seeing the cigarette ads in this, or even I'm genuinely shocked when I see a person smoking in real life now.
Yeah.
Because it was such a thing. I mean, I even remember going to restaurants as a real little kid, and them asking my parents smoking or non-smoking, which I can't even believe that was a legitimate question we used to ask people.
Well, you should go to Reno, Nevada, because if you miss people smoking in public, oh boy.
Oh man. 10 years ago, my wife and I went to Philly and spent a weekend there, and there was a bar where you could still smoke inside, and we were still like kind of smokers, and we're like, this is gonna be great. And we get there and it's like, this is disgusting. No one should do this to themselves.
And that next day when you take a shower and just like the smoke comes out of your hair.
Ugh, yeah. Ugh.
What was your brand?
Oh, geez. I did smoke Marlboros, and then, for my true hipster bona fides, I smoked American Spirits for a number of years.
Oh, of course, the highest nicotine content, but the money goes to the Native Americans.
Sure. So, I was killing myself, but I was giving back, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's just revenge.
Valid.
It's generational
Well deserved.
revenge. Did you collect the Marlboro Miles?
I did not, but I definitely had some kids in elementary school who would show up in the Marlboro swag or like the camel jacket that your dad sent away for.
That was the surefire way to tell the whitest of trash. It was like, oh, you got the fucking Marlboro Man sleeping bag, Jimmy, at 10 years old?
Yep. A camel windbreaker over a co-ed naked t-shirt.
Yep. Oh, you got a Marlboro beer koozie on your Pepsi Clear, your Crystal Pepsi. Perfect. So we're in the week of November 9th to I think the 15th, 2002. So between Halloween and Thanksgiving, I think we're the week before Thanksgiving. Also, Halle Berry is looking fine. In the inside here. Also, people might go, Halle Berry, not TV, but you're wrong because she was in the show Living Dolls for one season. And so this is a collect 3 different Bond cover issues. There's one with Pierce Brosnan, one with Halle Berry, and one with both of them. I somehow managed to get just the one with Pierce Brosnan, which is the last one you want. But hey, beggars can't be choosers here.
True. This is. I did not, unfortunately, find the time to do it, but I wanted to watch this Bond movie that they were pushing because I remember this being a big deal. It was the 50th anniversary of James Bond. And, even like reading the article, the future of the franchise is Pierce's if he wants it. And it was the last of like the classic James Bond movies. Pierce Brosnan did not do another one. And then they rebooted it all and made it super gritty.
And here's the thing. I've never seen a Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie or a Daniel Craig James Bond movie.
Oh, GoldenEye's really fun. And like a big part of it is the Cold War is over. So like, where does a guy like James Bond fit in the world of, geopolitics? And then they got increasingly like, they just went real forgettable real quick. I think like the bad guy in the follow-up is almost like, he's like a cable TV magnate and he's trying to drum up a war for ratings.
I mean, that doesn't sound too far-fetched given the state of the world today.
Very true. And I think, I think they were onto something. I imagine him in like glasses and a black turtleneck. So he's sort of like a Bond villain by way of Steve Jobs.
I see. See, I thought you were going to say he was like a cable installation guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's Larry the Cable Guy is the Bond villain. Like I might go see that.
Oh yeah, I think that'd be great. I would love to just hear Larry riff on the evil plot for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna fart. I'm gonna tie you up and fart. Farts. I've never heard Larry the Cable Guy's comedy, but I assume.
Yeah, lots of farts. And I just, I think I'm not going to say it writes itself because then you'd put me on the spot. But whatever James Bond's like comeback pun for "get her done" would probably be really good.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, there is one of them. I think
again.
There is one where, oh my gosh, what's her name? Denise Richards plays a scientist named Christmas Jones, and it's all in the service of the last line of the movie, or a line in the movie is him basically looking at the camera, going, "I thought Christmas only came once a year."
That makes sense. That makes sense. I am very much thinking of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie End of Days, which I don't know if you've seen.
Oh, a few times.
But it has my favorite name plot contrivance that makes no sense when he's trying to work out who is Jesus Christ's, I guess, ancestor that the Antichrist, played by Gabriel Byrne, is trying to find. And he goes, well, we know it's in New York. Christ in New York. Maybe her name's Christina York. And then that is her name. Oh my God. And they search for Christina York, and yep, there she is. So
wow,
you never know. Yeah.
Was there at least like multiple Christina Yorks in the phone book? So like it had to be like a Sarah Connor situation? No, just the one.
Nope, just the one. Just the one, Christina in New York. Christ in New York. Christina York.
Oof.
And I think it might be the only time in my life that I've been in a movie theater and I audibly groaned.
Yeah, that's not a good one. I mean, it's got some of those like great Schwarzenegger meme moments, like the whole choir boy rant.
Oh yeah.
And Gabriel Byrne does piss on a building and then blow it up with his urine, which is pretty cool.
He is chewing the scenery there.
Oh, yeah.
But what a silly movie.
Yeah, real bad.
Also, when we get to the article about James Bond in a completely sexist way, the first thing is, Pierce Brosnan in like a black t-shirt, black jacket. The next thing is literally Halle Berry in like a lace camisole.
Oh, yeah.
And she's
it
like,
is,
with her boobs squished on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little bit, and then her in a bathing suit. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then they do ask him about the sex scene he has with her too, which seems like something that most mainstream publications aren't asking a lot of male actors anymore.
Well, yeah.
Probably for the best. But according to Brosnan, Hallie's comfortable in her own sexuality, so when we're taking it off and jumping in the sack, we had a hoot. We really enjoyed each other's company. I'm glad that's not part of the press junket anymore.
Yeah, because it's pretty much, did you get a boner, kid?
Yeah.
Like they would ask that if possible. And they were all from Boston in 1987. That's how they would ask those things.
Guy, what was it like, dude?
Oh my God, dude, you touch him?
Oh my,
like that kind of thing. Like, oh, you were really doing it, right? Right? And then, obviously he wasn't.
Right.
Then there's an article on the Bond villains. So we got Richard Keel, who I met once, and he's deceased. He was a real weird looking guy. And man, weird looking guy. And then Robert Davi, who I forgot was in a Bond movie. People know him as one of the Fratellis from The Goonies.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we can't forget about George Lazenby, the Australian Bond that no one likes.
Yeah. Oh, and what a kicker too. The headline is 001.
Yeah.
And that's a fun one though. That's a really good one. And the consensus is if it was Connery, it would have been an all timer. But I don't think that's giving George enough credit. He holds his own all right. And
yeah, it's not his fault. Although I was happy to see they have a little teeny blurb on the Bonds that we never saw. So people who were offered the role and turned it down initially. And they talk about Patrick McGowan, who was the first person they offered Bond to. And Patrick McGowan, of course, from The Prisoner, but was doing Secret Agent Man at the time and would have been an amazing Bond. Another, an unusual amount of Celts have played Bond, mostly Scottish and Irish people.
Yeah. The actual article talks about Tom Cruise and Vin Diesel having expressed interest in being James Bond, which I don't know what movie Vin Diesel has seen with himself in that made him think he could pull off the accent.
Well, clearly Iron Giant.
That would be great if it was 2 hours and no puns, it's just Superman.
Yeah, because them expressing interest in playing James Bond and people actually being offered the role, very different.
Yeah, but they've both kind of carved out their own not quite James Bond franchises. I mean, I can't believe Tom Cruise hasn't died yet doing some of the dumb stuff he does in Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, well, those Thetans are gone, so he's got to do it. And is Fast and the Furious like a Bond series? Because all I can think is Vin Diesel, I think in 2001, did Triple X.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, yeah, Fast and the Furious are basically superheroes if their powers were just to drive cars real fast and from great heights. I think at one point they parachute out of planes in their cars. Yeah, they basically use their cars as Swiss Army knives to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay, fair enough, which I guess James Bond does. Yeah. Then there's an article here about PT-109 and JFK for no real discernible reason that I could think of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's Veterans Day this week. Maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah, possibly. And then there's an article I found fascinating in here, especially since I've had the creator of this show on, Lorraine Newman's sister, Tracy. But there's the Robbins Report has an article about new standards allow provocative fare in the family hour. I don't know if you read that article, but it's all about according to Jim. And it's pretty interesting. So in a recent episode, Jim and his wife, Cheryl, played by Courtney Thorne-Smith, who I'd love to have on the show, overhear on a baby monitor a neighbor consoling her husband about his fears of having a small penis.
Oh, no.
This hardly sounds like a bit from Happy Days, Home Improvement, or even Roseanne, but what constitutes a family comedy has changed.
Wow. I wouldn't throw Home Improvement in there. They were an envelope pushing show.
I don't think they talked about small dicks, though.
No, I do remember
overtly.
Tim getting yelled at for like touching the small of a woman's back and saying, "Would you have preferred it was the big of her front?"
Yeah. I mean, that's okay.
I mean, I don't know. I just that's the one awful Home Improvement joke that's really stuck with me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense. Oh, there's also, they mentioned a King of Queens episode where Doug's bodacious wife, Carrie, played by Leah Remini, who is also in Living Dolls with Halle Berry, finds herself babysitting her boss's 4-year-old son. She becomes distraught because the tyke keeps feeling her breasts. And then there's a picture of this kid full on both hands on her boobs.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's
And the episode was titled Mammary Lane.
Oh man, that's got to be weird. Like,
Having
okay,
a 4-year-old actor just grab your jugs.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that kid now would be, what, 22?
yep, yeah, about there.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try to find him.
And if he was from Boston, his friends would have been like, "Dude, what was it like?"
So, did you touch him? He'd be like, fuck yeah, kid. And he's got a photo and TV Guide of him touching him.
Sure does.
So, this is a weird week. This is a weird week.
It's
in
yeah,
television.
definitely a weird week.
Let's jump in Saturday night. So, we're November the 5th.
Okay.
Is it November the 5th? Yes. No, the 9th. I'm sorry. The 9th of November, Saturday, 2002. And there is an amazing ad in here, by the way, for a Bradford Exchange product called Soulmates. And
Yes.
it is a crystal, I guess, that has Native Americans painted on it with like a weird dream catcher kind of thing.
Yeah, two hearts soaring with love.
And it cost $50.
Wow, that's
Thomas Kincaid. Yeah.
Yeesh. There's a. I don't know if it's, I can't remember where exactly it is, but there's also an ad for the Bruce Lee Collector's Edition knife.
Yes.
Which seemed, did he ever was he famous for using knives? It just seems
No.
like a weird keepsake to put Bruce Lee's image on.
I don't ever remember him using a knife.
Right. Like maybe some other kind of weapon that maybe would be more appropriate, or I don't know, wristbands. I mean, he famously used his fists. It's so weird.
There was weirdly an early 2000s resurgence of Bruce Lee out of nowhere. Although maybe it was driven by the Quentin Tarantino movies, the Kill Bill movies, which I think were like 2000. But there was like a Lipton iced tea ad with like a claymation Bruce Lee. And then there was an ad, I forget what it was for, but it used footage of Bruce Lee playing ping pong and then CG'd some stuff. And there was just like this weird, like, let's use Bruce Lee in ads kind of movement at the time.
Yeah, what is that? Because I mean, he had there was a biopic about him, right?
Dragon, the Legend of Bruce Lee, but that came out in '93,
right? And Brandon had been dead for a few years at that point.
94, I think he died. Yeah, so it's his daughter and his wife. Maybe they decided they could. I don't know. I guess they would have to have licensed it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, who knows? Yeah, we're going to have to figure out what was in the air in 2002 that got people so excited about Bruce Lee again.
Bruce Lee's knife. So Saturday night, what'd you do?
All right. So for Saturday, so I'm kind of intrigued by Saving Private Ryan being on ABC on primetime.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if they're going to show all the gore. And I looked into it and they did. This was for several years, actually. And again, because it's probably Veterans Day weekend, they aired the movie uncut. And they actually had a deal with Spielberg that they would not cut the film for content. And they did that up until 2004 because of the wardrobe malfunction at the Super Bowl. Then a bunch of people were like, ooh, we can't mess around with the FCC anymore.
Although, like that, so the interesting thing is they would rarely cut movies for gore. Mm-hmm. And especially if it wasn't a horror movie. Although some could argue that it is a horror movie.
Are you sure?
But yeah, but sex all the time, gore and violence almost never.
Right.
Really weird.
I think they thought it was, they felt it was, the article I found said like had artistic merit and significance and was not, something that they felt the need to cut, which is pretty harrowing. I mean, that opening scene does not pull a lot of punches. It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But I guess they look at it like we should look at the horrors of war.
Yeah, exactly. But so knowing that now that like they're not gonna, I was more curious to see how they would like mangle that opening scene to make it work for TV, and knowing that they don't, I'm just gonna watch BattleBots instead.
Fair enough. Which was an enormous phenomenon at the time.
Oh, so and like inexplicably so. It is like the dumbest and nerdiest and most fun half hour.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I did OM as a kid.
Oh, okay.
Odyssey of the Mind. And we used to have to build, like we did when we had to build cars and stuff. So it was like, it kind of tickled that itch from like, oh, you could build things so that they blow stuff up. But it was so weird to me that BattleBots, which I believe was first a UK show, and then they did the US remake, was on Comedy Central.
Right. Yeah. They seem to have like some weird, like quirky UK imports, because then I had to look up for 8:30 what Trigger Happy TV was. I thought that was like a clip show of stand-up bits, but it looks like a British like prank show.
Yeah. Dom Joly, yeah, it was a British prank show that Comedy Central ran. It was sort of pre-Jackass, sort of pre that resurgence of prank shows like Punk'd and all that stuff. But it was like a throwback show, almost like Candid Camera. And this guy Dom Joly, he did some really weird, funny, odd, not really mean-spirited sort of jokes. Like one of the ones he would do where he would be a businessman and he'd go sit on a bench that someone was sitting on, and he'd either pretend that he was a spy who thought they were a spy and he was trying to give them some sort of clue, and then to like take the briefcase. Which was kind of fun. Or he would just start talking about how he lost his job and like he just pretends to go to work, and the person was like, what? He's like, yeah, I don't want my wife to be mad. And he opened up his briefcase and there was just like sandwiches in there. It was just like that kind of fun stuff. But the UK really had this sort of hidden camera resurgence, because that's when Ali G started doing stuff, which gave us Borat and all that kind of thing. And so, yeah, Trigger Happy TV was one of those things. And when I lived in the UK, Dom Joly had his own talk show. And I went to every taping, which was kind of cool. And I saw like The Cure play, and it was kind of cool.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It was pretty sweet.
Did he frequently use like a giant prop, like brick cell phone? Because when I looked up Trigger Happy TV, like that's all the thumbnails were just him yelling into this gigantic novelty phone.
Yeah, that was what he was known for. So he was sort of making fun of people who would be like on the subway, like loudly screaming into their phone in front of everybody. So he had, it's a phone that is like the size of like a Ghetto Blaster boombox.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. It's very, very weird, but it's fun. Like I'd rewatch that show. I'm thinking, cool. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd try it out. I mean, I was going to be just kind of like bouncing around for 8:30, so I'd probably sit there and check that out for a few minutes.
Fair enough. There's a lot of movies on this night. Like they did not even try to put really any original programming on Saturday night by this time.
No, I mean, it's Saving Private Ryan, Jurassic Park, Top Gun, Dr. Zhivago,
Black Knight.
Black Knight. I only recently, within the last couple of years, saw Top Gun, and it's there's no war in that movie. Like it's just it's about pilot school. I was very underwhelmed, Ken.
You should be.
I also then immediately watched Days of Thunder, which was Top Gun in a car, which was even less interesting.
I don't find most of Tom Cruise's filmography to be to my liking.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a cipher in the Mission Impossible movies, and they're cool just in the sense that he's like, I want to do the following 3 ridiculous stunts. So write a story in which we can make those happen, and then find me a country that doesn't care if I've never flown a helicopter before, because I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
it's like,
we
oh,
don't need to get any
that's pretty cool.
insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Risky Business. Mm-hmm. I love. He's great in Magnolia,
Yeah.
which isn't really a Tom Cruise movie per se.
Right.
There was another one. And I like Minority Report.
Yeah. I think that's that's sort of a film of this time that I think is maybe was not considered a great Spielberg movie at the time, or like didn't seem to wow people, but I think people are kind of going back to it a lot more recently. That's really good.
Yeah. Oh God, Eyes Wide Shut. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a real bad movie. It's a real bad movie. It's real
I
bad.
have not seen it. Is it
bad.
real bad?
It's real bad.
Oh, okay.
It's a real bad movie. Let's move on to Sunday. What'd you do?
Are we done with Saturday already?
Oh yeah. Was there anything else you had on Saturday?
9 o'clock, I'm going to watch Good Eats.
Oh yeah, which I still watch now, and I love the rebooted Good Eats ones that they do, where they go back and he's like, "I was wrong."
And I've never watched a cooking show and been like, I'm going to try to make that, or even really cared. I thought Alton Brown was just so charming. Yeah.
It's like Mr. Wizard, that show.
Yeah. And I'm probably going to watch Rocket Man at 9:30. The Harlan Williams movie.
Harlan Williams movie, which I've never seen, but I do always enjoy Harlan Williams and things.
I mean, it's great so the whole point is that they're going to Mars, and I don't remember why he's an astronaut because he's a complete moron, but his cryo sleep chamber doesn't work. So he's awake the entire trip out.
Okay.
And goes crazy and does he recreates the Sistine Chapel, but with all of their tubed astronaut food.
Okay.
Him going unhinged during the months-long trip by himself is worth it alone. There are a lot of farts. He does, I think, fill up his spacesuit with his own farts. Obviously. Yeah.
Which we've all done.
Sure. I mean, I think it made him an everyman.
When I was in elementary school, we had I think I've told this during the show before, but we had a NASA astronaut come and visit the school. I don't know who it was, but they brought a spacesuit that had been in actual space. Ooh. And I got to try it on because I was taller than everyone else. And the first thing I asked if anyone had peed in it, because I wasn't even trying to be funny. Legitimately, that was my major concern.
For sure.
And then he goes, yes, because obviously
constantly.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it works. So I was like, perfect, this is great. And I don't think it had been laundered since then.
Ugh. Were there
as
long as the boots weren't puddly or damp.
I think it was engineered in such a way that, urine did not collect in the boots. I think there was some sort of system.
As I was saying it, I was like, it's NASA. I'm sure they figured it out.
Yeah, NASA should at least have as good or better technology than a Stadium Buddy. NASA should be able to work that out. Now, I might be giving them too much credit. I don't know. I've never met anyone who works for NASA. They might be far over, we might assume far too much about them. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here.
True. Yeah.
And just say that. But,
I think that's
just me.
I think good call.
Also, just want to mention, I have zero interest in ever going into space. Zero.
Yeah. I think it's super cool as a kid, and then, as an adult who's neither a scientist nor a pilot, I'm like, it just seems unnecessarily dangerous.
I mean, even as a kid, it didn't seem that cool because I'm like, well, it's not like science fiction movies or anything,
Right. Yeah. There's
it's
not like you're going to meet cool aliens and robots.
No, it's like a boring, isolated, it's like a punishment.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like when Homer goes to space and they're just going to see if ants could move screws around. It was super dumb.
Yeah, it messes up your body. Mm-hmm. It's really boring. It's dangerous. You puke.
Mm-hmm. You may or may not pee in your shoes, depending on how capable NASA is.
Well, it depends on how good you are at peeing too, because that's zero gravity. Mm-hmm. If it's a game where you have the boot on the other side of the room and you're trying to pee into it that way, sure. But I don't know what they do. Is what I'm saying.
And sometimes those questions are best left unanswered.
It's true, but I'm sure I could find out with minor Googling. Sunday, what'd you do?
Sunday. So I started at 7 on Sunday.
Okay, fair enough.
So
I'll allow it.
oh, thanks. Yeah. So for Futurama, which Futurama was still new at this point, and I had forgotten that Family Guy was canceled for a few years. So the entire Fox Sunday lineup was not what I was expecting.
Yeah. It was a weird time for that.
Because now it's all cartoons.
Yeah. And this Futurama, this was like a big attempt for them to relaunch the show or get more viewers. And Al Gore has a cameo because his daughter wrote for the show. She went to Harvard and worked at the Lampoon and then was a writer on Futurama.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, it's a great Al Gore performance. I mean, his head in a jar lowers into this room with rockets, and he declares to a room full of scientists that I have ridden the moonworm, and then they all freak out like a rock star just showed up.
Yeah, yeah. And then, weirdly, speaking of rock stars, the Simpsons episode has a cameo by maybe my least favorite band of all time, Fish.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is a rockin' Simpsons, because so the Fish one's a rerun, and then at 8 is when Homer goes to rock and roll camp.
Yeah.
And you've got Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Elvis Costello, Brian Setzer. I almost called him Seltzer because Homer insists that his name is Seltzer.
Yep.
Lenny Kravitz, who tells them all that Kenny Loggins stuffs his crotch.
Yep. Which we all know.
Yep. Yeah, that's a fun episode. I don't remember the Fish one very well. I know I've seen it because I think Homer gets prescribed medical marijuana.
Correct.
So of course they get fish for it.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by American Dreams, which is a show don't think I've heard of, but appears to be a period piece on at 8 o'clock. This episode features Usher playing Marvin Gaye.
Ooh.
Which is a little bit strange.
Yeah, I saw the ad for that and didn't take much away from it besides Usher as Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, so, okay. And Charmed is also on, which is a show I never watched when it was on, but if I'm flipping through channels, which is increasingly less and less frequent these days, I will stop and watch a whole episode and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's pretty campy. My wife's watched through it a few times. I think where Buffy is the superior show is you kind of believe that these characters are all living it. And I always feel like with Charmed, they're just the dialogue is exclusively exposition. And then every episode is, the day is always saved with a spell that rhymes.
Oh yeah. It's very formulaic and
Yeah.
a comfort in that way. But I'd watch it. I would absolutely boycott King of the Hill that night, a show that I normally enjoyed, and would boycott it now and boycott it then because Kid Rock appears.
Ugh. Gross.
Just a vile human being.
The worst. I was toying with watching King of the Hill, but I think I would probably flip to the Tex Avery show on Cartoon Network.
Yes. Some classic cartoons instead of the man who wrote a song about himself called American Badass.
Ugh.
It doesn't get much worse than that. I will say there's an ad in here for Law and Order Criminal Intent with Vincent D'Onofrio, and it is very odd because it's this picture of Vincent D'Onofrio, and then it literally just says, murdering nannies.
As in they're fighting murdering nannies that week, or Vincent D'Onofrio is murdering nannies?
It looks like he's murdering nannies, but the episode is about nannies murdering people, apparently.
Jeez.
It's a very confusing ad.
Yeah, now I'm just picturing a kind of fusion of the two where Vincent D'Onofrio shows up dressed up as a high school age babysitter.
He's
I'm here to
undercover.
watch your kids. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the opening of Scream, but with Vincent D'Onofrio as Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that I'd watch. I think he can pull it off. He's a good actor.
He's got great range.
He absolutely does. 9 o'clock, what'd you do?
So I'm going to watch Angel. And so I've seen Buffy. I have not watched Angel yet, but I'm excited. This is a Lorne episode. And actually, the actor who played Lorne, Andy Hallett, is my wife's cousin. So she there are home movies of him around at birthday parties and Christmas and stuff. And, unfortunately he passed away a few years ago and I never got to meet him. But, he's I remember when we started dating, my wife and I, not me and Lauren. She's like, my cousin has an action figure. That was like the first thing she was excited to tell me about. And she had like an angel action figure of the character her cousin played. It was super cool.
Was he the Irish guy?
He was, Lauren was the demon. He had like a nightclub, and when you sang, he like could read your mind or something.
Yes. He's not the one that played Becky's husband on Roseanne.
No.
Yeah, he was that Irish guy, and he died during the shooting of Angel. That's why I was thinking of him.
Oh.
Forget the actor's name. I've not seen a ton of Angel. I am amused by the fact that they feel the need to write shown in letterbox format because people would freak out about that at the time.
Oh, yeah. My dad was definitely one of those, the bars are cutting off the top and bottom of the picture people. I'm like, no. Other way around.
Which wouldn't, like, why would anyone do that? Like, I tried to explain it to my dad. I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that. That wouldn't make any sense. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
They're cutting off the top. What? And I'm like, no. It's not how it works.
I think seeing something like, I remember Sci-Fi Channel made a huge deal out of showing the Indiana Jones movies letterboxed for the first time on TV. And I was like, there's more movie here. I feel like I have a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. Like, I remember Real Genius, one of my favorite movies, and that's shot in, I think, Panavision, so it's 235:1. It's the real widescreen. And I saw it at the theater, and then the day it came out on video, I rented it, and it's really panned and scanned. And I'm like, wow, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then I figured it out, but I was like, this is very weird that you would do this.
Yeah. Oh, pan and scan was always off-putting. Like, even, like, for little kids to be like, oh, there's something goofy going on with this movie, like, means you've done something horribly wrong.
Yeah, I recently found out that Invasion of the Body Snatchers was shot, the original one from 56, I think, was shot in sort of fake Panavision. So they shot it full frame, and then they did mask off the top and bottom so that you had a widescreen image, but it was framed that way. And then when it was shown on TV, they then panned and scanned that, so it was cut twice. So you're cutting off the top and bottom and then cutting off the sides instead of showing the full frame.
So they had the TV version, and then they made it look like a movie version, and then they made the movie version look like the TV version.
Essentially, yeah, which has since been corrected. But man, that is what a world we live in.
That is very silly.
Angel. Every episode I've seen of it, I've really liked. It's run by a friend of the show, former guest David Fury, and I've had oddly a bunch of people from that show on this show. But I also would like to revisit Alias, which is a show that I remember really enjoying when it was on. I think I only saw like 2 or 3 episodes, but enjoyed them and have never seen another episode, and remember it being this enormous phenomenon at the time.
Yeah.
And just haven't revisited, and I feel like I should.
Yeah, was that a J.J. Abrams show?
It was. It was like the first big J.J. Abrams show.
And it was like the thing that put Jennifer Gardner on the map as well,
yes,
right? Yeah,
absolutely. That's why she got Elektra, which we all know was an enormous film.
Oh, sure. Well, speaking of, I think there's a weird disconnect because the show Alias was on, and then there was the Marvel comic Alias, which was about the character Jessica Jones.
It was Jessica Jones, yeah.
I knew enough about both to know that they were different, but confused. Because they had the same name, I was like, I'm just going to ignore them both.
Yeah, I had kind of stopped reading superhero comics at that time, and or at least new superhero comics, and I would see Alias at the comic shops every week when I'd go pick up my comics, and I for real just thought it was the comic version of the show. Like, I didn't know that they were different, and I was like, oh, okay.
And I'm actually gonna stick around late on Sunday because this is around when Adult Swim starts and Home Movies is on at 10.
Yes, which is the final season of Home Movies, which they had produced new episodes for Cartoon Network. Previously, it had been a UPN show, and it was canceled, and Cartoon Network picked it up. And when this premiered in 2002, I had gone to... At BU, I went to a Q&A and screening of the first episode of this season, and everyone was there. So Lauren was there, Eugene was there, John was there. So it was very, very exciting.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, this was sort of, I mentioned earlier, like, this being a weird year because a lot of stuff is in its infancy, and this is before Adult Swim was really Adult Swim. So it's stuff like home movies or Mission Hill and the Oblong, stuff they just scooped up that the networks canned.
Yeah.
Or, anime late night on Saturdays. Home movies was great. And I didn't realize this is the last season until the final episode aired. I was at college, and that episode ends with Brandon dropping his video camera out of the car window, and it breaks. And I'm like, what happens now? I was devastated.
Yeah. And it's a damn good show that I have
really good
revisited
show.
and enjoy very much. Okay, on to Monday. I'm seeing this Bruce Lee knife. It's only $40. It holds up. It's pretty cool. It's got his signature etched on it.
Yeah, there's something about. Now, for the first time ever, the Franklin Mint is proud to present a limited edition collector's knife celebrating the honorable spirit of Bruce Lee. So clearly people were demanding the Franklin Mint make a Bruce Lee knife.
Yeah, it's richly accented with 24 karat gold. What it does is it helps you keep the memory of the little dragon alive forever. I don't know. Did you know anyone who ever ordered stuff for the Franklin Mint or like collector plates or any of that stuff?
No, but I definitely know a kid. I knew a kid in elementary school whose dad probably would have bought this. I remember a lot of really tacky, kitschy kung fu memorabilia around the house.
Did you ever hear the court case of the guy who sued the Franklin Mint?
No.
So Franklin Mint would always say although we can't guarantee an increase in value, like this collector's plate from 2 years ago sold for $100. Like they kind of wink sold them as investments. Mm-hmm. And so this guy used his entire life savings and retirement to buy Franklin Mint stuff over the years. And then it was worth nothing. Oof. And so he sued them. He didn't win, but he sued them. And I don't think the Franklin Mint is still a thing, but occasionally I'll hop over to eBay and just search Franklin Mint and just see just the spans of crazy stuff. And they're all like $1.
Yeah.
No one wants any of that stuff, collector's plates or any of that. But
well, if you want to know if they're still around, you can type in AOL keyword Franklin Mint and find out.
Yes, and all I have to do is get an AOL disk and load that up and then plug my phone in, and I will absolutely see if Franklin Mint. I do like to mention keywords to people. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, keyword. And no one knows what I'm talking about because that was a short-lived thing, keywords.
Yeah, I mean, even 2002, I was like, who's... I guess people who were buying shit from the Franklin Mint are probably still using their AOL account, but...
Yeah, I mean, 2002, though, a lot of people still hadn't gotten broadband. Like, that's when people were... It was just starting to roll out. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of people had dial-up still. So
this is probably around the time that my house finally had an internet connection that was not just, a new account name every time a new AOL disc came in the mail.
Right. Mom, on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The classic. Well, if you want to go in those chat rooms, you got to have a new account name.
Yeah. Exactly.
Monday, what'd you do?
Monday night. I'm probably going to watch Star Trek The Next Generation at 8 on... What the hell is TNN? Was that Spike before it was Spike?
It was. It was originally the Nashville network. And then it got sort of ditched a lot of the country stuff and started becoming more like a man show network. And then became Spike. Yeah. Yeah,
because this lineup of Star Trek The Next Generation followed by WWE RAW seems like counter programming.
Yep. But that's what it is. See, I would have watched on 8 o'clock. They have a show on PBS called Polar Bears with Ewan McGregor.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Ewan McGregor takes the actor to the remote Canadian port of Churchill for the annual invasion of bears and tourists as the animals migrate.
Wow. Yeah, that is the right choice.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor. And on the Parkers that night, Gary Coleman's playing himself.
Oh, watch out.
Yeah, this is when he did that, because I think he did that in The Simpsons that year as well on the Christmas episode.
Probably.
Yeah. So you're watching an hour of Star Trek, and then we do it at 9.
Part of me feels embarrassed, but I'm just going to own it. I'm going to watch Everybody Loves Raymond.
It's a good show.
It is a good show.
Yeah, it's a solid sitcom with likable actors, and it's not earth-shatteringly amazing, but it's not bad.
No, I think it's worth. Peter Boyle alone is worth the half hour.
Yeah, and Phil Rosenthal, the creator of the show, has proven to be just an incredible human being. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
So Phil, so it's partly obviously Ray Romano's life, and then the other half is brought to it is Phil Rosenthal, who is the sort of showrunner and executive producer, and wrote most of the episodes. And Phil did stand up for a while, and he's from New York. And after Raymond ended, he did a documentary called Exporting Raymond, which I would just, if people haven't seen it, it is fascinating because what the networks do and have done really since the 90s is instead of syndicating shows, they discovered that they could sell or essentially license the format of a show to different countries. So that country would make their version of a show. So Married with Children was one of the biggest successes. There's like 47 different versions of Married with Children in different countries. But they were selling a lot of shows to Russia. And actually, Tim O'Donnell, a friend of the show, who was the showrunner on Just the 10 of Us and Growing Pains, he spent a lot of time in Russia at this time helping them sort of translate shows to their country. So they needed an American there to kind of help them with the humor part, but then the local sort of version would be, specific to that region.
Right.
So Phil Rosenthal went over to Russia to help them translate Everybody Loves Raymond to Russia. And it's a fascinating documentary, but some of the best parts in the documentary are him traveling around with the government sort of fixer they give him to watch him and drive him around, and like him going out to eat with this guy. So as a result of that, PBS gave Phil Rosenthal a reality show called I'll Have What Phil's Having. And he kind of just travels around and eats food in different countries, and it's incredibly charming and lovable. And then Netflix did a version called Somebody Feed Phil, and there's 3 seasons, and it is just the best show. It's like an Anthony Bourdain show, except with this really nice, affable, funny guy from New York complimenting people.
That sounds really cool.
It's very good counter programming for this day and age. And on top of that, Phil is obviously very wealthy from Everybody Loves Raymond, and he gives so much money to things and has started all these charities like for the election, because there's long lines of people waiting to vote. He's sending food trucks and pizzas to people waiting in line. He helped start this company called, I think it's called Homeboy Baking in LA, and it basically helps ex-gang members learn to be chefs and bakers, and then they have their own baking company and supply a lot of restaurants. Like, it's just crazy. Like,
wow, that's great.
Yeah, he's just a good dude all around. So I will forever love Everybody Loves Raymond just for that. Just for that alone. I don't know, maybe I'd watch that. I don't know what else is on at 9 o'clock. Second City presents John Lovitz discusses his life and craft on Bravo. Probably watch that.
Yeah, I would tune into that for sure. I did have a note here that Behind the Music was a clip show, but I like stuff like E! True Hollywood Story, Behind the Music, that Second City thing. Like before Wikipedia, like that was, I would just watch that kind of stuff regardless of what it was, just to sort of absorb useless trivia.
Oh, and it was fascinating. You'd watch from people you didn't even care about. And the late 90s, early 2000s were huge for that, too. Mm-hmm. Every channel had one. And actually, earlier in this issue, TV Land had sort of launched their own as well. Mm-hmm. And we're doing that sort of thing. So, this was sort of that 5-year period when that was everything.
Oh, yeah. And like the VH1's, right? Was it VH1 had the I Love the 70s and I Love it, like those talking head shows?
Yep. And those were imported from the UK as well. Those were originally done in the UK.
Oh, gotcha.
But cheap, super cheap to do. And, people loved it. Yeah. There's an ad on Tuesday for a Lennox Grinch tree ornament that is very off model.
Wait, oh, yes.
It's like the Grinch kind of dressed like Madeline for some reason. And it's $25. I would not buy that.
No.
But that's just me. Tuesday night, what are you doing?
Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, I'm going to go with the Gilmore Girls.
A show I've never seen, but everybody loves.
Yeah, it's not one that I've ever sought out. Again, it's a favorite of my wife's and one that she rewatches a lot. So I think at this point I've seen most of it, but out of order.
Okay.
And just kind of pieced it together. but I really enjoy the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So yeah, I'll watch the Gilmore Girls. And actually, I looked up what episode it was this week and watched it, and recognized that the director of this episode directed Hocus Pocus, because that's how much my wife watches that movie as well. That
there you go. There
I
you
know
go.
the name of the director of Hocus Pocus.
This is about a 24-hour dance marathon,
Yes,
which is apparently a thing.
they do it every year in Stars Hollow. It's a big to-do.
Yeah, I mean, again, Hocus Pocus, oddly a film that has become the sort of Halloween Christmas story for a generation of people slightly younger than me.
Yeah,
And not a good movie.
No, there's a weird amount. It's weird how often adults in that movie make fun of a teenager for being a virgin. It comes up constantly.
Hold on a moment, though. Salem, Massachusetts, in the 90s, that's accurate.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's just like that. Like the whole plot hinges on that. Like the movie even ends with a ghost being like, "I had to wait 400 years for a virgin to light a candle," and I was like, "What's Disney doing?"
Yeah, and I like all the people involved. I remember going to watch them shoot it because I was hanging out a lot in Salem as a teenager, and that was kind of exciting. So I saw it in the theater because I was like, "Oh, it's that movie they shot in Salem," and I was kind of like, yeah, it's a dumb kids movie, And I think that Space Invaders or even Ernest Scared Stupid's a better movie, but what do I know?
Yeah, it seems it's a movie where no one is as campy as the witches are, and I think everyone should be on the witch's wavelength. I think that would make it a much more fun movie.
Possibly, yeah. And I like Ombre Cats. I was a big Erie, Indiana fan. But yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. Every time I'm like, I know this kid from something else.
Yeah.
And Erie, Indiana is why I was terrified to get my eyes checked when I was a kid.
Fair enough, and you should be. You should also be scared to sleep in Tupperware.
Yeah. I did a couple years ago in Salem see 3 drag queens dressed up as the witches from Hocus Pocus, and it was fantastic, and it was great. They made it work.
I'm not sure if that was on purpose, to be honest with you. Sometimes that just happens. It's just sort of natural.
It was like the week before Halloween, so I'm going to assume there is intent there, but either way, they look great.
Again, still not convinced that was on purpose, but, I'm a skeptic. So you're watching that for an hour, and then what are you doing at 9 o'clock?
Oh, geez. 9 o'clock, I was kind of waffling. I can't definitely say X-Files because I don't know what episode it was. And at this point, it could be like an after Mulder died but didn't really rerun. So I'm gonna go with Frasier at 9.
Okay. Show, again, everybody loves and I do not enjoy. I've tried. But I am 1,000% watching Life with Bonnie. This is Bonnie Hunt's fourth sitcom. Well, fifth if you count Grand, but her third sitcom that she wrote and created and starred in. And she plays a talk show host with a family, and it is an amazing show. It lasted 2 seasons. It has this bittersweet, sort of heartbreaking, charming family relationship. But the talk show segments of the show, it's like a morning talk show, are all improv. David Allen Greer plays her producer, and it's just super funny and amazing. In this particular episode, Jonathan Winters is in it. So her and him are playing off each other, and it's really fun and funny. The Bonnie Christmas episodes and Halloween episodes are some of my favorite things ever. I just really, really love this show, and got to talk to Bonnie about it when she did this show. We talked about it at length, and it's one of my favorite things.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I think you sold me. I'll check that out because that sounds great. That sounds a lot of fun.
And again, I mean, she is just amazing. Her body of work is fantastic, and a lot of it's hard to see because it didn't re-air, but everyone should see Return to Me, the movie she wrote and directed with David Duchovny in it, and it is probably the best romantic comedy dramedy I've seen in 30 years, but I don't want to.
What was it called again?
It's called Return to Me. Well, Pete's helping. It was called Return to Me. It's Minnie Driver and David Allen Greer is in it as well, and David Duchovny, and it's just brilliant. It is
cool.
So good. So good.
Nice.
She wrote and directed it. At 9:30, I think I might watch Anna Nicole.
So I forgot that this was a thing.
I did too.
Yeah, because it's on seemingly every night.
Yes.
So it was a reality show, right?
It was a reality show, and she was a mess. I mean, she was on drugs and was essentially just used up and spit out by Hollywood. And her awful lawyer, Howard K. Stern, who was sort of just using her to get on this reality TV show. This episode, she hires an interior designer who is her friend Bobby Trendy, who I've met. And it was a fascinating phenomenon. And looking back at it now, given where we've gone with reality TV, I'd be curious to rewatch it, but also feel like it would be really depressing.
Yeah, especially since she died not too long after this, right? It was the early 2000s. So
right, and on the show, she clearly had a drug problem. Yeah. And so it wasn't. You're basically seeing this person kill themselves. But it was a comedy. You know, it was sort of in the wake of. Was it before? I don't remember if it was before or after the Osbournes, but it was presented that style.
Right, where like, oh, look at what a mess this person is. Look at how these people have to deal with him.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, it's gross. I mean, it's always been so like off-putting because I think, you know, when you find a reality show or a competition show that seems to have like good intentions or a good spirit behind it, or like you're saying earlier with those shows with the co-creator of Everybody Loves Raymond. Yeah. Like that's great, but it's when like all the punching down of it all is really just kind of gross.
Yeah, it's when most of the shows that we watch became either aspirational or laughing at people trying to be aspirational.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just terrible. Wednesday, what'd you do? November 13th, 2002.
Wednesday, what did I do? So I have here in my notes, I put down Super Mario Brothers the movie on Disney Channel? ?
Okay.
But you know, I think that's just something I'm going to sort of sit with for a few minutes. I feel like 8 o'clock on Wednesday, I'm going to be bouncing around a lot. Maybe see what's on True Hollywood Story.
Yeah, that's not a bad jump over. I'm sort of fascinated by the show Ed, which I feel like was a quality show. I don't remember ever watching it. But it seemed like Northern Exposure to me and seemed kind of likable, although I don't remember anything about it. I think I missed the whole run. Yeah,
I remember that like the commercials would come on for Ed, and I feel like my eyes would just kind of glaze over.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I also see that the Godfather Saga is on, which I had to look because I thought they just played the same movie on Bravo every night for a week, but they just stitched the first two together, re-edited it so it all happens in chronological order, and then they stretched it over 5 nights.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's that much movie in the first two Godfather movies, even put together.
I think there was some something where they also incorporated some like deleted scenes or previously unseen footage as well, which kind of got people to watch it. But yeah, it seemed, and it was clearly done because The Sopranos had become popular.
Oh, yes.
So they were like, what can we do to get people to watch The Godfather again? So that's what they did. I know I would have watched The Bernie Mac Show, which again, I think is one of the best family sitcoms of all time. It is funny and sweet and really great. Enterprise is on, which is a Star Trek show. I never liked Star Trek, but I watched all of Enterprise and Voyager over the last 2 years because I've been doing a lot of conventions and I've had to interview people from those shows.
Sure.
And you know, they're not too bad.
Yeah, I remember watching the first episode of Enterprise, and the captain, or maybe not the captain, it was not Scott Bakula, so it was somebody else, some dude, Starfleet guy, and the Vulcan character, T'Pol, I think her name was. They like come back on from a planet. They're like, you got to go on the decontamination thing, and the decontamination thing was just a reason to get her into her underwear and put like this like oily goo all over herself. And I'm like, this seems like they're playing to the cheap seats for Star Trek.
So you're saying that like that's bad.
I mean, I was concerned that they're like, okay, like 7 of 9, like really pushed a lot of buttons for folks in the right way. So we gotta be sexy out of the gate.
Oh yeah. And, yeah. But I mean, if you go back, you got green women in original series.
That's true. That is very true. I'm not complaining. I'm like, we're putting this front and center in the pilot episode. Like, just sit on the sexy time for a little bit.
Oh, sit on that sexy time. All right.
Deep Space Nine is great. If you're interested in furthering into Star Trek, I rewatched that recently, having only like kind of watched it a little bit when it aired, because we were a big Next Generation house, and Deep Space Nine's really cool. It does a lot of, especially if you've seen the Battlestar Galactica from around the time of this TV guide, Deep Space Nine plays a lot like a sort of dry run for a lot of those ideas. It's really, really good.
I recently watched the documentary about Deep Space Nine that just came out.
I heard about that.
And it is pretty good. I tried to watch the show and just couldn't get into it. And I love Avery Brooks, obviously, from Spencer for Hire. But it didn't do it for me. But I must admit, I'm also not a fan of Next Generation. I just didn't like it. It was so boring and cheap to me, and I realize everybody loves it, but every episode to me was like, the crew has been knocked out and they were asleep and they're hallucinating.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine kind of sidesteps that, and by keeping them mostly in one location and mostly having a bunch of people who don't like each other to begin with, having to work with each other every day.
Yeah, it's like Casablanca sort of. Yeah,
exactly. And even the first episode, Avery Brooks has like nothing but contempt for Picard, which is kind of a bold move considering they were both on at the same time.
Yeah.
Because Picard killed his wife when he was turned into a Borg, and he never forgave him for it.
Yeah, I mean,
so I'm like, okay, this is they're setting their own path here. This is pretty cool.
Expanding the universe.
Yes.
I'm at 9:00, 100% watching on stage at the Kennedy Center, honoring Bob Newhart.
Of course you are.
There's no way I'm not watching that. This is a tribute to Bob Newhart, Tim Conway, Kelsey Grammer, Bernie Mac, David Hyde Pierce, Don Rickles, Dick Martin, Julia Sweeney, and the Smothers Brothers are there. I love Bob Newhart. I would have watched that had I been in the country, and I might even try to find it now so I can watch it this evening.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Birds of Prey because I forgot that this was a show. Yeah. And I just watched the new Harley Quinn movie a few weeks ago, which is really good and super fun and super colorful, and like it was exactly what I needed, because I want to like superhero movies more than I do. And they all feel so samey, and they're also, for the most part, so like just grim and self-serious. And this felt like it had all like the gritty violence, but like a real like healthy dose of camp.
Birds of Prey was an interesting experiment because in a lot of ways it was way ahead of its time. And so, as was The Tick from the year before that. So
The Tick was great.
It was a great show where they were a few years too early, I think, for sort of people to mainstream enjoy a superhero series. And Birds of Prey was a Batman show without Batman, which was a tough sell for people. But they got it made because Smallville was doing well. It wasn't in the same universe, but it was an interesting show. And the one season they did is pretty decent.
Yeah. Mia Sara plays Harley, which is pretty...
She does.
Interesting casting. I would not have guessed that.
And I really like her because she's playing more of the doctor side of it.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I'm all on board for a Batman show without Batman. I was excited for the idea of Gotham, and then they're like, "Oh, we're going to have Kid Bruce Wayne in it. Don't worry about it." And I was like, "We don't need to do that."
Yeah, I mean, Gotham got pretty cool though.
Oh, did it?
Oh yeah, after the first season, it got real great. It's basically a cop show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I watched the first episode. I'm like, it feels like I'm watching cosplayers in a Korn video, and I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, it seemed very fan film, but it gets, it basically is a cop show.
Good to know.
Yeah, season 2, it really picks up.
Cool.
Wednesday night, what'd you do?
Wait, we are on Wednesday. So Thursday?
Oh, Thursday. Yes, Thursday night. I'm sorry.
Thursday. So I was going to go with the True Hollywood Stories of the Beverly Hillbillies. But then I just read this article about Cocoon and how it's one of these like lost movies because it gets like tied up in weird rights issues and you can't stream it anywhere and you can't buy it anywhere. So I'm like, oh, well, if I'm in this hypothetical time machine, I'm going to go back and watch Cocoon because you can't watch it anymore.
A huge movie at the time. I saw it in the theater and part 2 in the theater. Super weird movie. I haven't seen it in ages, but I think that's a fair enough pick. Legend is on that night as well on AMC, speaking of Mia Sara, which is a wonderful mess of a movie.
As is Phantom of the Paradise. This is a great night for movies.
Yeah, Phantom of the Paradise is probably my favorite Brian De Palma movie. That I always say is the movie that should have had the fan base that Rocky Horror got. But Scrubs is on, which I watched all the time. Heather Locklear's in that episode. I love Scrubs. I've tried to go back and watch it. I don't feel like it holds up as well. It's very dated, but it's still kind of a fun show. But I'd probably end up going Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah. Scrubs is one that I would never sought out, but I would never turn away from when it was on. And when I saw Heather Locklear in the ad, I got nervous because I remember when I can't remember if she came on to Spin City first or Charlie Sheen did. Either way,
She came
sort
on.
of like I liked Spin City before she came on Spin City.
But it wasn't her fault. They had some issues where they had to keep the show going, and but that is why she's on Scrubs, because Bill Lawrence, who worked on Spin City, created Scrubs. Has Heather Locklear on. There's an excellent episode of Scrubs that Michael J. Fox stars in, where he plays a doctor with OCD, and it is one of the best examples of not even a bait and switch, but sort of the line in dramedy that I really like, where they use his OCD as, a sitcom joke, which people do. And they're funny. And then there's a scene where, JD sees him scrubbing up either before or after a surgery, and he's like violently washing his hands. And he's like, "You don't want this. This is this is hell." Like, just talking about how he's like, "I don't want to be doing this." And it's awful. And you just feel awful for him. You realize how terrible of an affliction that could be. And it's really well done. And it makes you as an audience kind of feel like an asshole for having laughed at it earlier. And it's really, really well done.
I love that. Building it up for 15 minutes and in the last 5 to make you be like, oh, I feel like such a monster.
Yeah. Hey, you're a dick. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty great. Final night of the week. Friday night. What do you do?
Friday night. I saw that Firefly was on, and the 1 year it actually aired. But I'm gonna go with Providence because it's just a show I didn't watch. But when I moved to Rhode Island, you'd go to a restaurant or a coffee shop, and they'd have a local magazine article or a newspaper article framed with film crew filming hit show Providence in such and such restaurant. I'd be more curious to see how much actual footage of the city and of Rhode Island is used.
It's a lot of establishing shots. And I remember it being an enormous show for 2 years. And I think there was a spinoff of it called Crossing Jordan. I think that was the spinoff, or it might have been the other way around.
I did look up Crossing Jordan because that was a show that I'd hear the name on a commercial and be like, oh, that sounds like it's a religious show.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's like a medical procedural, and Catherine Hahn is in it, who I love. I just assumed it was sort of like a Christian adjacent, morally heavy kind of show.
Yeah, but no, I think it was a spinoff of Providence, and I think it was Angie Harmon. Not Angie Harmon, I forget the actress that was in it, but I ruined a shot for that show once by accident because they would shoot exteriors in Boston for that show. And it was when I was in college and I was walking, I had my headphones on, and I must have just ignored 18 PAs and barriers and just stormed through a shot. I stepped over tracks and everything. And that was pretty funny. I didn't even intend to do that. But I'd probably watch Firefly. I was interested in that show and have watched and rewatched that show many times. And that's another show that they brought in Ben Edlund, the creator of The Tick, who also worked on Angel, at the last 5 episodes of the show, and that's when it really got good, and then it got canceled.
Yeah, that and Family Guy were a couple of big sort of casualties of Fox at that time. Fox has a long list of shows they canceled too early. And I'm not saying they should have brought Family Guy back. I'm not a big Family Guy fan, but yeah, that was sort of their thing, and they both became big. You know, once we're TV shows on DVD was just starting to happen, and kind of saved the reputation of Firefly.
This is a weird time in television too, because a lot of these shows are oddly kind of lost and harder to see than shows later than this or earlier than this. And part of the reason is prior to like 99, 2000, people taped stuff on VHS tapes, and now people are able to rip those, and those lasted. But between about 99 to about 2005 or 6, people used DVRs. And as a result, people didn't keep copies of these shows. And a lot of them, especially short-lived ones, don't re-air anywhere. And so there's a few shows that just you can't stream. There's not, bootleg tapes. They're not up on YouTube. Providence is one of those shows. Like Ally McBeal, I think, is another show that's actually kind of hard to see.
Oh, really?
And
that's surprising, just considering how much of a phenomenon that show is.
Yeah. It's really weird. And I think a lot of it is just due to the sort of shift in technology at that time of VHS tapes to DVR.
There's that one guy who's just got like a stack of TiVos and he never deleted a thing.
That's right. He's got a whole basement full. Just skipping to 9:30 for a quick minute, because there's a big ad here. I was shocked by this. Whose line is it anyway? The Drew Carey one. Guest star Joly Laurer from China from WWE is also sadly no longer with us.
Yeah, this is definitely my 9:30 pick. Because what?
I'm curious to see how she did, because she also had a lot of substance abuse problems, but was a really sweet and kind of funny, quick on her feet performer. And so she probably did all right.
Yeah, I feel like this was sort of, at this point, Whose Line had been on for a number of years, and I feel like I remember a lot of I guess like stunt casting. They'll have these guest stars who aren't typically thought of as comics or improvisers. I can't think of another. Oh, actually, I think one of the guys from not Ryan Stiles, Diedrich Bader, I think, was on an episode of Whose Line, and didn't seem like a great improviser.
He's not an improv guy,
No.
but he obviously was friends with them from Drew Carey. Yeah.
So it was always interesting to see somebody sort of struggle to keep up. But I really want to see how China did with their like genre song parody sketch.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I wonder if Proops was in that episode, because I may have to ask him about that if he is. Yeah, and there's also a show at 9 called John Doe that I don't know what this show is, but it appears to be some kind of like serial killer show. And this is on Fox, and it's the murder of a small-time PI who had Doe under surveillance leads him to a mysterious woman played by Grace Zabrowski, who was in Twin Peaks, plays Laura's mother, who says she knows who he was. So if I'm remembering, there was a couple shows that I confused. One of them was Nowhere Man, which I think might be different, but I think this guy like wakes up somewhere with no memory or like fingerprints or something. I don't remember, but
one of those like unnecessarily complicated procedurals just to make it different.
Yeah, and it was like a big conspiracy kind of show, and it was also kind of in the wake of 24. But also at 9 o'clock, Comedy Central presents Greg Proops.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I also have, I think this was on at 9, but Dominic Dunn presents Murder in Greenwich, starring Christopher Maloney as Mark Furman.
Yes.
I mean, he's so like, so well loved as Stabler and like all this other stuff. Like to picture him as such a like unrepentant creep.
Everybody hated Mark Furman. My God. And for that guy to be involved in multiple weird things, it's a little strange. Well, Tony, as you know, TV Guide, it is not just informative. It has opinions, and it cheers and it jeers. And I'm going to read you the cheers and jeers of this week, November 9th, 2002, and see if you agree or disagree.
Alrighty.
I do want to mention, though, there's a sub-segment for the first time where they have, within the cheers and jeers, they have quotes of the week that they say worth repeating. So I'm going to read these quotes and see if you can guess who it was.
Okay.
Would that work?
I will stop scrolling to cheers and jeers so that I don't spoil it. Okay.
Do you want a hint? They're all in the same business. I can give you a hint if you want, or I can just read them blind.
Let's hear the first one. I'll see if I can do it without a hint.
Okay. CBS News announced this week a new format and new hosts for The Early Show. And to ensure higher ratings, CBS is renaming it CSI The Early Show.
So I'm going to guess we're like late night talk show territory.
Correct.
Is that Letterman?
That's Jimmy Fallon on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I wasn't even.
Yeah, that one's a little bit off, but the other two are late night hosts.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. So he was the Weekend Update guy.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
yep,
gotcha.
Amy Poehler. The next one is, the new Madonna film Swept Away took in only $375,000. Producers blame the low box office on strong word of mouth.
Conan?
Yep, that's Conan.
All right.
And then process of elimination, you get kind of like a 50-50 chance with this one, but it wasn't exactly what the U.S. was looking for, but it is good news. The UN Secretary Council has now authorized the use of force against all telemarketers who phone during dinner.
Leno.
No, Letterman.
Oh, geez. Man.
That is sort of cheesy Leno style, though, yeah.
Right.
Not Letterman's best there, I would say.
No, but that Conan punchline was pretty classic Conan.
Yeah, that is a good Conan punchline. So this week we have two cheers, two jeers. I start with a cheers. To turning fact into compelling fiction. NBC's Boomtown isn't the only, I feel like I have to read it, Boomtown isn't the only series making drama out of real life, but it might be the best. The same week that NBC's Law & Order embarrassed itself with a silly plot inspired by dumb rumors about Kurt Cobain's death. I totally forgot about that, by the way.
Oh my God.
And only a week after CBS's CSI Miami concocted an even heavier-handed plot out of the William Kennedy Smith and Chappaquiddick scandals, Boomtown outshines them both. The October 20th episode with Patricia Wedding as a 1970s era fugitive radical turned yuppie housewife, shades of Sarah Jane Olsen, cleverly traced the ripple effect of a long ago crime, and the surprise ending was a chiller. That's better than Roman a chef. What? Yeah, Roman a chef guessing games any day. I don't know what that means.
So that was a cheers?
That's a cheers.
You know, I'm going to disagree. I think if you're going to draw from the headlines, why not go big and garish with it?
All right, you want full exploitation.
Oh, yeah, why not?
All right, cheers to padding the joke. Only in the reality starved world of television could television comedy could a perfectly perfect actress like Sarah Rue be the target of weight jokes. The star of ABC's Less Than Perfect might not be a stick figure, but who, outside of the women on Friends and Seconds in the City, is? The comedy has eased up on the fat jibes lately, so how about doing away with them altogether? I would agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think they mentioned Friends in there, and like, yeah, the fat Monica jokes are just gross. They're horrible.
Yeah. Cheers to a political humorist. Senator John McCain's timing might have been a bit off during the 2000 elections, but it was right on target when he hosted NBC's Saturday Night Live October 19th. Unlike most hosts and many cast members, McCain actually appeared to have memorized his lines, and he was as funny as any senator's ever been. On purpose, anyway.
Good for him. I don't know. It's a weird time to think about politicians, like, you know, rolling up their sleeves and making fun of themselves right now. Maybe it makes me wistful for when you could turn a blind eye to that kind of stuff. I don't know if we ever should have been, though. So
I don't know.
Yeah, cheers.
I remember McCain being funny in that episode. I also remember that they had Steve Forbes host an episode of SNL when he had Forbes magazine, when he was the failed Republican candidate. And there was a sketch that I found very funny and is very stupid, where he had written a book about a fictional election, or fictional primary, and he was being interviewed on TV, and they were calling him out that it wasn't fiction. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, you have a character named Teve Torbs. and he was like, that's not me. And then it got like increasingly more ridiculous. And I think there was a character named Not Bill Clinton. Like it was very funny.
That is really good.
Yeah. And finally, jeers to pen pals. In the midst of the DC area sniper horror, Fox News Channel's Rita Cosby sent a pleading letter to imprisoned Son of Sam serial killer David Berkowitz. Our world is crying, and you can help, she wrote. Berkowitz's self-pitying response, which featured, quote, since the shooting began, my life has become very difficult, had no news value whatsoever, but that didn't stop Cosby from airing the exclusive missive. Oddly enough, it didn't help anyone, least of all Cosby.
Yeah, I think they made the right call in calling that a jeers. That sounds like, that does not sound smart.
That sounds insane, but totally keeping with Fox News.
I mean, it's, you know, so much has changed in 20 years. Maybe it's comforting to know that they've all been just a pack of fucking psychos over there from the beginning.
Like, I totally forgot about the DC sniper thing, which was insane. It was like a stepdad and his kid.
Yeah.
And they had rigged up the car so that the license plate would fold down and one of them would sit in the back in the trunk with a gun and they would just like randomly shoot people. It was crazy.
Right. Oh my God.
But writing the Son of Sam, who was the original, that guy was such a loser. He was the original, he was a mailman, and he said that his dog told him to do it, if you remember that. It just, what an insane writing the Son of Sam like he can help. So this woman totally saw Silence of the Lambs and was like, I'm going to be Clarice Starling. And, all right, the Son of Sam, who's just some moron from Long Island who had a friggin' 38.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, shoot these people. Like what? Like most serial killers are actually pretty much all of them. That sort of vision of this like super smart, serial killing genius is complete fiction. Like it doesn't exist.
No, not at all. They're mostly, the broccoli stuck in my teeth from yesterday told me to do it.
Yeah, or they're just completely bonkers. Or you have someone like Henry Lee Lucas who is developmentally disabled and just, literally clinically an idiot, who they're broken. Like, I wonder if this woman knew it was a complete stunt or was like really thought this was a good idea. Because I'm astounded by this one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like an Al Capone's vault thing where they're like, maybe he's going to have some real insight. And he's like, I'm just kind of sad.
Yeah, like he's going to be writing them letters on toilet paper like friggin' Red Dragon. Like, come on, David Berkowitz, come on.
Jeez.
Yeah, who I always get confused with, I think his name is Steve Berkowitz, who runs Legal Seafood.
They're both monsters.
Yeah, it's true. He feels real sad. Ever since these DC sniper things started, my life has become hell. Not because I murdered a bunch of people in 1977, but because of this DC sniper stuff.
That's when his heart started feeling for the families of the victims.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing really well before that, and then it all went downhill.
Yeah.
Although I will say the best thing about the Son of Sam was it led to the greatest sketch, which I think was on Mad TV when Bob Newhart hosted. And it was a classic Bob Newhart one-man sketch where he was doing just one side. He was doing his I'm a straight man and there's only me. And he was playing a manager at a post office firing a guy, and the camera was the guy. And I do remember one of the lines. He goes, no, I'm not saying your dog's a liar.
Oh, that's perfect.
But it was very funny. So, Bob Newhart, everybody. Well, that is the week. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, Ken. It's been, I'm not going to lie. I've sort of fanboyed out about this all week. So I was very excited.
Nice. Well, now you have nothing left to look forward to.
You're not wrong. That's it.
Well, we can maybe write a letter to David Berkowitz and ask what he thinks we should do.
Yeah, David Berkowitz, what should my life aspirations be now that I've been on TV guidance counselor?
And he's going to say, "Hey, get the wild caught salmon."
Great callback.
Yep, I'm a professional. There you go, Tony Pacitti. thank you guys so much for listening. Buy his book. It's a very good book. The book about my best friend is a Wookiee, one boy's journey to find his place in the galaxy. That's not what it's about. That is the title. It probably also is about that. I am sorry. I'm very out of it today. It's been, oh boy, this year. But I'm going to start the new year brand new. And next week is our year-end special where I will give you sort of a director's commentary of every single thing I did every week in 2020. And every episode of the show. Also, still doing the shows remote. I think we'll easily make it a full year remote of the show. So if you have guests that you would like me to try to get on the show, email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com or at tvguidance or at ken@wread. I assure you, I attempt to get everyone you request. Some people I am successful with, some people I am not, but I do try. And I'll see you again next time for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
Would you have preferred it was the big of her front?